All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the City of Hartford Charter Revision Commission to order on March 17th, 2022 at 7:03 PM. And we can start with the roll call. David Grant, please take it away.
Thank you very much. And when I say your name, just please say here for the record. James Wolfe.
Here.
Raul De Jesus Jr.
Here.
John Gale. Alexander Appointing.
Here.
Arunan Aralumpalam.
Here.
Steve Bonafonte.
Here.
Vicky Gallen Clark.
Here.
Kamora Harrington.
Here.
Kenneth Kennedy.
I'm here.
Kathleen Kowalshin. Melvin Medina. Jadida Rivera.
Here, Melvin Medina, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Jadida Rivera.
Here.
Bruce Rubenstein.
Here.
Eon Smith.
Here.
And you have a quorum. Thank you.
Great, thank you, David. All right, on to the approval of the minutes from March 3rd, 2022. I will entertain a motion. Bueller.
So move.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Aponte. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gallen Clark. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it and the motion carries unanimously. On to the chairman's report. I want to first give an update on where things stand for hybrid or in-person meetings. So I had a conversation with some folks from the clerk's office, from MHIS, which handles tech issues for the city, and David Grant. And I've been told that the city council chambers should be ready for hybrid meetings in late April. And so there will be a monitor that we could use that will be up in the city council chambers, where the folks in the chambers in person could see the individuals on Zoom, and the folks on Zoom would be able to see, get a live stream of the folks that are in the council chambers, and they'd be properly mic'd up and so on and so forth. We do have, the Connecticut General Assembly, at least the House, is meeting in person. Masks are optional for that in the chambers. I know there are a lot of municipalities that are having in-person meetings, so I want to put it out there. You don't have to share your opinion now. I know it's a private decision for some folks, but I would like if we can get a good number of people that are comfortable with meeting in person for our next meeting, to have a meeting in person in the council chambers. But so please do weigh in with me privately, one-to-one, so we can get a sense of where people are at for that, and then we can make a decision afterwards, before we have the capabilities for going hybrid. The next thing I wanted to discuss quickly is process. So tonight we are discussing an action item number 7, and we're also discussing the Civilian Police Review Board and Police Accountability Review Board, and then we have a couple of background documents. As we're getting close to the end of this process, I think what we'll do is, after we have a discussion on an issue such as a background document, or something that we've had a discussion on with the panel, I will put together some draft language that tries to pull together where I think that the commission should be headed or could be headed, depending upon the conversation, and then we will share that document for review. And so that's action item number 7 is an example of that. We'll then have a discussion on that language, and people can weigh in and have a conversation. Hey, I don't like this. Hey, have you thought about adding this? We work it out, and then we circulate potentially another draft or two, and then if we can get folks on the same page, we'll put it up for a vote. And if an item is going to be voted on, we would list it as an item for action in the specifically on the agenda, which is what we've done in the past, right, Steve? It said specifically, it's been indicated that the item's going to be for action.
Yes.
So that's I just want to be transparent. There's not going to be any surprise votes. You're not going to be language that pops up out of nowhere. To the extent we can, I really want to shop around language and give people a sense of where things are headed. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? Okay, seeing none. We can move to background document number 14, and then 15 and 16. So Steve, if you want to just take us through each one of these, and I'll handle the transitions through the agenda items formally, but you can lead the discussion on these next 3 items. So feel free to take it away.
Background document number 14, chapter 11, the borrowing provision of the charter. And what I did was I sent the document to Dave Panico, who's bond counsel for the city. Dave sent me a markup of the document. Such as it was, there was only one change, although he was reserving judgment until he talked to the treasurer. But the only change that he has requested is on page 2, section 3. He wanted to modify the 20-day period with 30 days. He wanted to increase the time for bringing a petition on an ordinance that's subject to referendum. So and so he increased the number. When 30 days, he just wanted to increase the number from 20 to 30. It's a pretty change. So there's no substantive change in that document, but I would suggest that we hold off until we see if there's any other comments that he may have. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments on that item? Okay, seeing none, we can move on to background document number 15, temporary absence or disability.
What I tried to do in this section, we discussed this briefly at the last meeting, and I think there was a general consensus that the section in the charter, which is the first section listed here, section 4, was a little vague with regard to what a temporary absence is or what disability is and how it may be defined. And so what I tried to, and I also placed in here the removal provisions, because incapacity is a grounds for removal, such as that provision is. It also potentially affects the succession in office. I ended up including those provisions in here as well. Starting on page 2, you'll see that I've gone through probably the top 8 or 9 communities, 10 communities in the state, and you'll see just varying degrees of how they treat disability. And most of them do not have much in the way of a definition. They do talk about, some of them use different language, permanent physical or mental disability or infirmity, which may be a little more precise, or incapacitation, inability to discharge office, etc. The closest we come to any kind of methodology for determining such disability is actually in the Hamden Charter removal provisions. And all we say there is that it would be a determination of physical or mental incapacity to serve based upon best evidence as presented by competent authority. And then there's another standard of incompetence again, based upon best evidence as presented by competent authority. So I wanted to, I'll defer to the chair to run this portion of the meeting to see if there are any thoughts that you have on the direction we should take and whether or not we should further define how that is determined in section 4. So, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. Any thoughts from the commissioners? Okay. Sounds like there's crickets here. Are there folks that think that there are any issues here that we need to make any changes to, or are folks feeling comfortable with the status quo? Or do we need a little bit more time to review? Okay, why don't we flag this for review at our next meeting? And if there's no issues, we can, Steve, feel.
Yeah, all I was going to say is please read through them. I tried to give you a highlight of some of them. And as I did say, there's not a lot of guidance. But if you simply say you want me to establish a standard, again, I think the Hamden Charter does provide at least some methodology for making that determination. So please feel free to chime in on it.
Commissioner DeJesus.
So going over it, I like a little bit of everything in there, but I think the one that I predominantly am leaning for is the Stanford one, which I think is pretty clear and clean. And then I do agree that the Hamden does. So creating some synergy between both, I think, would help and clarify things. But that's kind of where I am with that. I do want to look at the other ones. I do want to look at New Haven and Bridgeport too, to see what they have, because those are major cities. Yeah, that's kind of where I am. Hamden and a little bit of Stanford.
Are there certain parts of the Stanford and Hamden that you could identify that you like more than another section?
I'm looking for clarity and how has been used in the past, and how it's worked. I'm very familiar with the Stanford one because that just happened. It has seemed pretty smooth and easy to apply. The Hamden, I think that was recently revised. So I haven't seen that one in action, but I'm leaning towards something that has already been done and how it's worked and how it's functioned. So there are some biases there, because sometimes these things look great, but when they're applied, they turned out to be a little bit different. It seems like the one in Stanford seems to be the cleanest one in my view of understanding.
Steve,
And applying.
I think that, if I may, Mr. Chair,
go ahead, Steve.
Stanford worked, and actually Hartford just recently worked as well, by the way. But it worked because the mayor made a determination. The mayor said, I am not going to be here. I'm going to be on pregnancy leave, on family leave, or I'm going to go to the hospital. The issue that I think that is problematic that we need to resolve is if there's a disability and it needs to be determined by somebody other than the mayor. That's the question, is that if there is a disability and it's like Woodrow Wilson, 100 plus years ago, if there's a disability that is not acknowledged, I think that's the difficult question. In most cases, mayors will say that I need to take a leave for a week or a day, for that matter, for day surgery or something, and so it tends to work well, and that's why it's the lack of definition that concerned me, and I guess must have concerned others that are there. So,
and I through the chair, and that's where I agree with you with the Hamden one. It
Yeah.
fulfills that portion of it. Yep.
Well, Steve, do you want to put something together?
I'll play with it. I think I know, I think I have enough to, if everybody understands what my concern is, which I think was your concern, I can draft some language.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then we will go to back on document number 16, departments and department heads.
Again, this is a section we have not touched. And what I did on this one is I went back to the comment grid just to remind everybody what some of the issues are that have been raised with respect to departments and department heads. And I just want to point out, if I may, Mr. Chair, we don't need to change every section of the charter. We're going through a review, and where there hasn't been testimony, there hasn't been focus, I wanted to bring up at least the comment grid to remind everybody what is there. So I have no recommendations. There's been no testimony other than these issues that were brought up. And so I'd leave it to you. I have nothing to add except to say that this is the chapter, and these are some of the questions that were raised.
Great, thank you, Steve. Do we have any comments or questions with regards to this chapter of the charter? Okay, seeing none, we can move on to chapter or item number 7, the discussion regarding action item number 7, boards and commissions, outstanding issues. So what we did here, and Steve can walk us through, but we put in place a sunset provision for the abolition of ordinance-based commissions that have boards and commissions that have not met over a certain amount of time. And then we tried to provide appointing authority for the boards and commissions that appear in the charter, and give appointing authority to the council with certain aspects. So Steve, if you want to walk us through, and then
I'll be happy to do so. If you recall, I'm going to skip over a number of sections here, although one of them showed up redlined for some reason. We approved a template for a lot of these additional provisions in section 1, dealing with the role of boards and commissions, the public interest, all those. We approved that some time ago, the administrative requirements, quorum, etc. There was a blank in that section when we approved it, which is now section 5. I'm going to look at the red line, if that's probably a better way to look at it, if everybody has the red line version of it on page 3. And what we had talked about with the town clerk is the town clerk had indicated that there were a number of dormant boards and commissions. And there was some discussion at our meeting about what do we do about them. And so I, working with the chair, examined the issue and decided that on an annual basis, the town clerk should report information to the Common Council. The names of boards and commissions that it should not simply be in section 4A of chapter 1, any board or commission. Oh, board or commission as defined, okay. Has not met during the preceding 12 months. So that you'll get a report every year on boards and commissions that have not met within the prior 12 months. You may think that's too long a period. So there's nothing sacrosanct about that period. That's the period we came up with. If that is the case, the board or commission would within 60 days, the council would have the ability by resolution to continue the existence of the board. Presumably they would call representatives of the board or commission, if there are any, or members of the administration who are responsible for the board or commission, to come before the council. We're not laying all that out in this provision. And the council within 60 days would report, within receipt of the report, could by resolution simply continue the existence of the board. They don't change the ordinance, they leave it in place. They can't really abolish a charter commission, so this would be all the other boards and commissions that are created by ordinance in town. If there's no action within the 60 days, then the board or commission would be abolished by operation of law. So if the council fails to take action or fails to care about it, the consequence would be that the board or commission would be eliminated. And so the idea is to try to winnow down the numbers of boards and commissions, particularly where they're not active in town. So I hope that articulates the concern. You want to stop there, Mr. Chair, for any discussion on that?
Yeah, that works. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, let's move it along.
The next change, the next thing that shows up for change, I don't know why it did, because nothing changed in it, regarding publication of boards and commissions. Maybe something changed with the lettering or something, but that was all approved at the last meeting.
I thought it might be a font thing or something, because
There might have been a font thing, but all that was approved at the last meeting. I don't know why it showed up as a red line.
What page?
Those are pages 9 and 10. You'll see a whole section that's deleted, and then it gets repeated thereafter. I don't know why that happened that way, but it did. There are no changes in that section. The next changes are in each of the appointed boards and commissions that are created by charter. And what we did here is you'll see several changes. You'll see that in many of these cases, they never state the term of office for any of these boards or commissions, which I did not notice until I was trying to figure out how they worked. And their terms are sometimes in the code of ordinances. And in a couple of cases, we had to find out what the terms were because they were stated nowhere. And so we decided to put the terms in the actual charter. So you'll see that we articulate the term for the Internal Audit Commission, for example. And what we did here is we eliminated, we basically have created a situation where the president of the council will appoint 2 members of the commission subject to confirmation by a majority vote of the council. The treasurer gets the other appointment. At the present time, the appointments are, that third appointment was the 10 largest owners of taxable property, where the members of the commission itself would make a recommendation to the council of 2 people who are among the 10 largest taxpayers. But I think there was a decision that we would move in another direction. I threw in the president as the appointing authority. In many cases, it says the council's the appointing authority, but how does a 9-member council or whatever number of members we'll have on the council make an appointment? I think that the president's appointment starts off the process and the council has to then confirm the appointment as it would any other appointment. And so in that case, we would have council has 2 appointments and the treasurer has 1. In that case, there never has been and will not be proposed to have a mayoral appointment, since the audit commission is functionally auditing the mayor's functions. And I think the people who drafted this many, many years ago made the judgment correctly that the mayor should have no finger on this process. Do you want me to run through all the commissions, or do you want to do it one by one?
I think Commissioner Gallon Clark has a question, so I
All
don't,
right.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair.
yes.
I have a question for Attorney Metnick. What did you say just now about where it reads that the council president makes a recommendation of appointment. Did you say that that's going to be replaced by the city council?
No, no, it was just the opposite. When we were talking about have council appointments to boards and commissions, I made a judgment call. I talked to the chair about it, that it should be the president of the council who makes the appointment subject to approval by the council. Because it's
Because someone has to make,
somebody has to make the
there
appointment.
needs to be someone to make the appointment. So you'd still need 5 votes to pass to get the person appointed.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a formality. Is that what we're looking at?
Well, it's finding an appointing authority. I think the idea is to have an appointing authority. And in the natural course of things, if we simply said the council, my expectation would be that the president would either do it or appoint a committee to do it, to come up with a name. And I just thought the charter, by having the president as the appointing authority, it makes it clear that somebody has this responsibility, as opposed to around the council.
I'm just going back to several discussions that we had with Majority Leader Thomas Clark. And I mean, I wrote down some of his words verbatim, and he was talking about the criticality of the city council being involved and having some type of authority as far as appointees. So are we missing that piece?
No, because the council has to approve all the appointments. She is not given right now, she is not given license to appoint without the majority of the council approving that appointment, any more than the mayor is given that power. The council has the ability to deny the mayor's choice and would have the ability to deny the president's recommendation.
Okay, I guess we're gonna have, I know we're not voting on this tonight.
Yep.
But I do remember, again, several conversations where we said, because I'm looking through this and it looks like it's either the mayor making the appointment or either the city council president making the appointment. And I was hoping to see something a little bit more inclusive.
But the council gets to approve all those appointments. So,
Which is the same right now, right?
well, right now, the council doesn't have any appointments.
No, don't they get a chance to approve?
The mayor's appointments, yeah.
Right, so what's the difference then?
Difference,
between
the
this and
council
that.
president's a member of the council and makes a recommendation to his or her colleagues.
Okay, so you're seeing that that would be the major distinction.
Yes, yeah, that would be a significant, I mean, this would be a significant departure from, we've got Commissioner Harrington, Commissioner Kennedy coming up next. I want to acknowledge those hands raised. Yeah, this would be a significant departure from the way it currently works now. You know, to Steve's point, the council president just doesn't have carte blanche to choose whomever that they want. They can put a name forward, but if they put a name forward, they need to ensure that they have the votes and the buy-in from the rest of the, you know, from a majority of the council.
Okay, thank you. I will certainly come back to this.
Okay. And so this is put forward to spur conversation and debate here. So that's why we put it up. So appreciate any additional thoughts or ideas. Commissioner Harrington.
So kind of in the same vein, I'm looking here, and so under C, appointment, except as otherwise provided, it says all members or alternate members of boards or commissions, include the appointed members of the Board of Education, shall be appointed by the mayor as set forth in this charter. How is this not, or what are we going to do with this? So it sounds like we're saying that that everyone doesn't have to be appointed by the mayor, but here it says that they are.
Which page are you on?
I'm sorry, I'm doing this here. So this is version 2.5, Hartford Charter Revision.
It's page 5. It's
Page 5. Right, thank you.
But it says except as otherwise provided by the general statutes or this charter. So the sections that we're going through right now are the exceptions. In general, the mayor appoints. But what we're saying in these 5 sections for the commissions that are in the charter, there is a shared appointment. In one case, he doesn't appoint at all. But I think the first clause allows us to make the change within the body of the document.
Not clear.
Does that answer the question, Commissioner Harrington?
I don't think it's clear, and I would like for us to address that in some way. I'm glad that we're having more conversation, and I'm sorry, my computer's doing weird stuff, so I just lost it. Here we are. Let's keep the conversation happening because I've got questions, but I'm not sure what my question is right now.
Okay. Commissioner Kennedy.
Yes, and I promised I wasn't gonna say anything this evening because I had other more important matters to attend to, but with respect to the council president being the appointed authority, let's look at the MDC, for example. Any council person on the council appointment can put forward anyone for appointment to the MDC. It does not have to come from council president. I would think the council appointment should operate pretty much in the same way. If a person doesn't get 5 votes, they don't get 5 votes. I mean, so basically you wouldn't, the council, in other words, the appointing authority couldn't, you don't have to go through the council president to make the appointment. I think that's what everyone's concerned with. If council leadership is really good, they'll make sure that that's a consensus pick and that the leadership will be appointing anyway. But I think Gene Holloway's on the commission from MDC, and I made that appointment, or I'm the one that pushed that forward, got the votes for it, but I did not have to go through Sean Wooden as a council president, for example. As for the appointments in general that Commissioner Harrington has pointed out, I think you've got to specifically identify which boards and commissions you want council to have appointed authority for. Right? Just specifically identify which ones you want, and then leave the other language for all the other boards and commissions. The mayor is the appointing authority. I just think you have to specifically identify which boards and commissions those are going to be, not have it in some general language. I mean, that's just my point. And think that's why I think you should approach council appointments going forward.
Well, so first, I appreciate your insights on the appointments to the MDC, because that's helpful. Because I don't think we were aware that was the process. And that's something that we can certainly look at. With regards to the specific appointments, so the council has appointing authority to the boards and commissions listed here in the charter. So that is planning and zoning, internal audit, zoning boards, zoning board of appeals, and I'm forgetting.
Yeah,
I think we'll go through it, but all other boards and commissions, the mayor still has appointing authority.
I think we wanted to, maybe it was economic development, but I just think there was just a little, 1 or 2 more, I think that the council was looking for, that they wanted to be added to that list. Not to exclude the mayor, but basically you said on one list, the council should have of the 8 appointments, the council has 2 of these, whatever the commission should be. I think that's what the counselors themselves were looking for. Again, we're here representing people. It was not a make or break issue for me, but I think that's what they were looking for on some of the boards and commissions. I know zoning was always a big issue with a lot of folks, that they had no say in zoning at all. I can't think of those off the hands, but we probably should ask our fellow commissioners which boards and commissions they think the council should have some appointing authority on, and then try to whittle it down from there. If I may, that's.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Steve.
If I may, without being engaged in debate, the chair and I have talked about this issue, and Commissioner Harrington brought up subsection C. The way we might be able to remedy that, rather than engage in an exercise of looking at all the boards and commissions in the city, and trying to make some value judgments about that, would be to add to the exception language, which the commissioner thinks needs to be clarified, but we'll clarify the language. That's the current language. Add to the or the charter ordinance, an ordinance as adopted by a majority of the council, to give the council the authority to look at the ordinance-based commissions and make a determination regarding the appointment authority of those bodies. Then the question becomes, can that be interpreted to give the council the ability to appoint all the members of a board or commission? And so I think that in this draft, we were carefully honing in on kind of a ratio and a standard for all of the charter commissions to establish the principle. The question is whether we expand the exception clause to allow council members to, by ordinance, to modify the appointment authority of boards and commissions. And you do it with limits or without limits. I just wanted to raise that.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rubenstein.
thank you. By way of disclosure, I sit on the Audit Commission. With respect to the mention of the commission this evening and the appointment, which is very different than what has been tradition for the three commissioners. The way it was set up 20 years ago, principally in an arrangement by Chairman Allen, oh my God, I forgot his name.
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yeah, Alan Taylor and John O'Connell, was to keep the Audit Commission free of politics and autonomous. So that's why the initial three commissioners, one was for the treasurer to make an appointment, one was for the council, and one was for the top 10 taxpayers, trying to keep politics out of the Audit Commission, because the Audit Commission at various times over the last 20 years has investigated certain council people. For instance, just very recently, we were investigating John Gale. To have a change from the top 10 taxpayers to now 2 members being selected by the council president and validated by the rest of the council seems too political. I had discussed previously that there should be a system where the chief auditor and the 2 remaining commissioners put out notice, gather applications, submit, in their opinion, the 3 or 2 best applicants to be sent to the council for them to make a recommendation, which seems much less political than this particular change. I also note that, to my knowledge, the change from the top 10 taxpayers to what you both propose, I don't know if there was any other discussion amongst anybody else other than just the council and the chair. If so, I'd like to know who else was involved in the discussion for this change.
Attorney Rubenstein, this is the conversation. I heard your concerns about having the top 10 taxpayers be appointees. And so we decided to take that out and leave it to the council, rather than because if you have the appointee of the treasurer.
We meaning who?
We meaning I made the decision and Attorney Mendick drafted on my behalf.
Did you
now we're
discuss
having
it with anybody else in the commission?
No, I did not. And now we're having a conversation about it. So if you're free to offer additional suggestions, and if folks feel that your suggestions are warranted, we can make changes. But that is the process that I laid out earlier in the meeting, and that's how we're going to engage in the process
What-
going forward.
From my perspective, having president of the council select two council people subject to approval of the council is possibly creating a too political audit commission that should be autonomous and free of politics.
Okay, I appreciate that. And
That's my position.
okay. Thank you, Commissioner Rubenstein. Steve?
Can I just ask, there is an ordinance, Mr. Chairman, I think you and I have talked about this ordinance that has certain restrictions on it that has been adopted. And it's an ordinance that's very similar to other commissions. And a lot of the charters I've written, most towns don't have an audit commission like this. This is a very unique and interesting commission. But on commissions like civil service commissions, ethics commissions, where you want to make sure there are no political axes to grind or political people, you usually have restrictions on their conduct. So for example, this commission is, I believe this commission is covered, yes, in 2-41C2 of the Code of Ordinances by a restriction that members cannot hold office, cannot hold or campaign for public office. They cannot have been a candidate for public office during a 3-year period prior to appointment. They can't be involved in any political party, can't be on a town committee or a political committee. They can't be a city employee, and they can't be employed as a person who's required to register as a lobbyist. So somebody at some level adopted that ordinance. Does that allay your concerns that the council appointment would be necessarily political if they can't appoint political as defined people? And we could tighten that language up, or we can modify that language or whatever, place it in the charter itself. But that language, somebody had actually thought of the issue that you're concerned about with the current appointment structure, because the treasurer could appoint a political person, the council could appoint a political person. So somebody obviously considered that for this ordinance. Does that allay any of your concerns?
Are you addressing that to me?
Yes.
Yes.
It's an issue about it.
Attorney
Through
Medic,
you,
it's addressing to
through
you.
you, Mr. Chair, I'm not debating.
Commissioner
I just wanted to
Rubenstein.
raise the question as a technical matter.
I think that you need an additional step. The step that I suggested, I think keeps it out of politics. As I said, over the course of the 10 years that I've sat on the audit commission, we have investigated several council people. To have the appointments directly out of the council president and verified by the council, I think is a little too glaring. And I would advise the additional step that I suggested before, because I think that tends to keep it out of politics. The chartered commission, audit commission, originally was thought to be non-political, and that's why it's in the charter the way it was. And also with respect to the ordinance, I'm well aware of it. And that's why it was drafted, to try to keep the audit commission objective and neutral, knowing that at various times they would have to investigate a mayor's office, which we have done, commission, council people, and we have done that. And I think that this is a little too close and too political, could be too political. And that's why I suggested what I did before with respect to having the two remaining commissioners and the chief auditor send out notices, gather applications, sift through them, and submit 3 to the council for them to make a selection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubenstein. So just to understand your proposal, there would be 3 individuals who would be putting forward recommendations, 2 of whom would be political appointees. Is that correct? And those,
No,
so the
no,
treasurer's appointment to the audit commission is a political appointee. as is the council's appointment. So you would have the two of them in your proposal, and then you would have the chief auditor.
Correct.
So two political appointees and one member of the civil service would be putting forward names. So political appointees have control, or would have the 2/3 of the voting ability to put forward names to the council.
That's correct.
And that's
And
not
it
too
seems-
political.
Well, it's less political than the proposal.
Okay. All right, this is
Because
something
the
that
council
will,
the council would get 3 names from those people. And don't forget that the 2 appointees, the treasurer and the council, during the course of their term, often have investigated the council, mayor's office, and various departments, which we have routinely. So that's a buffer. And I think it's a lot cleaner and much less political, and will tend to keep the autonomy of the audit commission as opposed to this proposal, which I think is dangerous.
okay, thank you, Commissioner Rubenstein. Are there any other thoughts on this internal audit commission portion? Commissioner Medina.
To the chair, just because I'm having a hard time to follow. For Commissioner Rubenstein, am I understanding right that your concern is about what the origin of the appointment starts at, and that you want the origin of the appointments to come from the audit commission itself to then go to the city council for approval, rather than it's the president of the council deciding who's up for appointment? Like, that's the filtering process you're concerned about? I just want to, because I was having a hard
Yes.
time following.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Whoops, I was on mute. Any other questions or concerns with that section?
So quickly to the chair.
Commissioner DeJesus.
So the proposal is the people who are going to do the research and find a qualified candidate are going to be a council appointee and a treasurer appointee. Those 2 appointees will recommend 3 members or potential members to the committee via the
No.
council. Is that what he's proposing? Can you clarify that, please?
No.
Commissioner,
Proposal.
excuse, let's hold on. Let's not speak over each other here. Commissioner Rubenstein, could you please explain one more time your proposal?
Mr. DeJesus was in error. Once again, what I proposed was that the chief auditor, in conjunction with the 2 remaining commissioners, send out notice. They can, in the notice, ask for certain qualifications, gather applications, look over the applications, and submit, in their estimation, the top 3 most qualified applicants, or 2, if you'd like 2, to the council for them to make a selection.
Through the
Thank you,
chair.
Commissioner Rubenstein. Commissioner DeJesus, did that answer?
just-
the question?
Yeah, I misspoke there, but so who appoints the chief auditor?
The commissioners.
Okay.
Any further questions, Commissioner DeJesus?
Yes, so I also see a issue with that, in the sense that the commissioners appoint the chief auditor. In this situation, the chief auditor is being proposed as a neutral person, but it's a very tough position to be in if you don't agree with those 2 commissioners that really are the ones who have appointing power to you. So my question is, does that present a conflict for the chief auditor? Because they can't, it'll be hard for him to go against the people who put him in that position. So I think we go back to kind of the same scenario again.
Thank you, Commissioner DeJesus. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Attorney Mednick, you want to move past the internal audit portion and move on to the Board of Assessment Appeals
Well. That's my,
or the,
okay, the subsection B. Actually, subsection C is the Board of Assessment Appeals. And what we did here is instead of 3 appointments for the mayor, there would be 1 appointment by the president of the council, subject to confirmation by majority vote of the council. We also included the term, which was in another section of the charter. We broke it up a little bit in here, but that's the only other change. The only change is the breakdown from 3 current appointments by the mayor to 1 by the council president, subject to approval by the council. So the same issue with regard to the council appointment presents itself here. But that's the simple change that we made.
any questions? Okay,
The next one is planning and zoning. And in this case, the mayor currently has 7 appointments. And we broke it down, so the mayor retains 5. And the council president would have 2, again, subject to confirmation by the council. And with regard to the alternates, instead of the mayor having all 3, the breakdown would be a 2-1 breakdown, with the council president getting the 1 appointment. Also actually put the term of years in here, which was not in the prior, is not in the current charter. Thought it should be in the charter. And that is it. That is actually not even the code of ordinances. You have to look to the actual zoning, the zoning code, to find out where the composition of the Planning and Zoning Commission is. I think the chair thought, and I advised that this is too important a commission to not have defined its structure in the charter.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rubenstein.
thank you very much. Once again, that's a chartered board or commission. Democracy works best when the 3 branches of local government are roughly equal. I would, while it's a welcome change to go from 7-0 to 5-2, it's not enough for me. I would suggest 4 and 3. That equals it out a little better. And with respect to the alternates, 2 and 1 is fine.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rubenstein. Commissioner DeJesus.
Through the chair, I do concur with Commissioner Rubenstein. I do believe that there should be a split, which is ironic, but is about the same number that I was thinking of. And it's kind of, it works better that way. For the alternates, I think with that proposal, it does create some balance in that commission. So I think that 4-3 may work best. 4 being for council, 3 for the mayor.
Is that the reverse? Is that the reverse of Bruce's?
No,
Oh, you were 4.
They're in agreement, yes.
Okay, all right, very good.
Commissioner Gallen Clark.
Again, looking at the balance of power, I agree with Commissioner Rubenstein and DeJesus, the 3 and 4.
So 4 appointments for the mayor, 3 appointments for the council.
No, 3
No.
appointments by the mayor, 4 appointments by the council.
Okay. Thank you all for repeating. I got it. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
And should I go into the final one?
Yes, please.
The final one, let me also preface this point, because it's an important point to make. And that is, if we make these changes and if they're approved by the voters, there will need to be a transition provision. And so I didn't do that at this juncture, not knowing what our position was. We decide that it's going to be a 4-3 breakdown. There will have to be a transition into that structure, so that as vacancies open up, the vacancies would be filled by the council until the council achieves the number of members that would be appointed by the council. So it would not be immediate. It doesn't make a lot of sense to eliminate the boards and commissions and start from scratch. So there's usually a provision that would be in the charter. The ZBA right now, again, we did a breakdown, a 4-to-1 breakdown. The mayor, instead of having 5, would have 4. And again, the mayor would have a 2-1 ratio on the alternates.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rubenstein.
through you to council, to the council. Steve, so the ZBA originally is 5 appointments by the mayor and none for the council, and you're
Yes.
suggesting 4 and 1 now?
Correct.
Okay, well, I find that lacking for the same reasons I found
Mhm,
the other appointments lacking.
mhm.
I suggest 3 appointments by the council for the ZBA and 2 for the mayor.
I like that a bit more, Bruce.
Mhm.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrington. Commissioner Gallon Clark.
I agree with the recommendation of Commissioner Rubenstein for the same reasons.
Thank you, Commissioner Gallon Clark. Commissioner DeJesus, did you have your hand raised? No.
Yes. I concur too. I think that the 3-2 makes best sense in this situation. And the 2-1 is fine.
So you would be,
Question is, the 2-1 is 2 mayor, 1 council, or 2 council?
Sorry, so it'll be 3-2, so 3 council, 2 mayor.
But what about the alternates? Leave it.
it's
2-1
right
seems
now,
fine.
with
2-1.
2 with the mayor and 1 with the council? Is that what you're saying?
Okay,
Okay.
I just want to make sure I was clear on that. Excellent.
Commissioner Gallon Clark.
So Commissioner Rubenstein and I are saying something different. For the membership appointments, we're saying 2 appointed by the mayor and 3 appointed by the council. And then
Same
we're
thing.
leaving the alternates the same.
That's how I understood it. Thank you.
Yep,
Okay.
that's how we're in agreement, yep.
Okay. And that's the end of the document.
That's it.
So when, are we going to come back to this apparently? Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So what we do is I'll take into account the suggestions, and I'm sure I'll be taking a longer look at this, and then we can shop around another draft. At some point, we're going to have to make a hard decision and vote, but the point of getting something down on paper and just letting everyone see it makes it a lot easier to debate things when you have something on paper. And so again, this is a first draft. This is not the end. So we just needed to start a conversation, and that's what this is. So
Okay,
I appreciate the debate and the dialogue, and everyone's insights here. So be on the lookout for a new draft. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I wanted to move on to item number 8, a discussion regarding the Civilian Police Review Board and the Police Accountability Review Board, and police issues in general. We had a presentation from we had a couple of weeks back on these issues from the Corporation Counsel and from a New Haven Police Commissioner who is also former Judiciary Chair in the House, among other things, Mike Weller. And so this is everyone's opportunity to discuss changes that they'd like to see to the CPRB, to our the PARB that we have in place, the Police Accountability Review Board, and any other suggestions. And again, this is just it's an idea session. People can throw things out, and then at some point, based on the opinions of the commissioners here, we put forward some language. If there's a consensus that something needs to be done, some changes need to be made. So I'll entertain comments from commissioners if they have any.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rubenstein.
can through you to Attorney Mednick. What is the appointing authority of the two boards just mentioned, and how many appointments are there?
Well, the Civilian Review Board, I can have it up on my screen here. 9 appointees. The mayor makes 8 of the 9 appointments on that board.
And the other?
The other, we go down. The other is established by resolution. And I'm taking a look at it. It does not in the resolution have an appointment methodology. That was one of my difficulties. The board will be comprised of 13 people, Hartford residents appointed by the mayor and the city council. It doesn't have the breakdown. It simply says 13 appointed by the mayor and city council, who are members, but not limited to, members of the civil rights organizations, legal and criminal justice professionals. And it has 13, but no breakdown on how that is allocated between the mayor and city council.
Is that appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent?
No,
of the
it says
council?
appointed by the mayor and city council. I won't say it's the most precise language, but the way it looks to me, it's as if it's a joint appointment. But again,
Okay, well, the
it's
first,
very, it's an unusual,
the first,
I'm
the
sorry.
first entity to me is unacceptable, where there are 9 appointments to a board or commission and a mayor has 8 of the 9 and the council has 1. I would suggest 5 for the council and 4 for the mayor.
But Mr. Chair, we have no authority over that ordinance-based board unless you were to make it a charter-based entity. I'm not sure how
We could do that.
Right, that's right. So we would have to, you'd have to write in the CPRB into the charter and then identify the appointing authority.
Correct.
It goes back to Commissioner Kennedy's point that he raised earlier. Are there entities we'd want to have that impact in? And my response to that was, do we want to give the council the authority to do it? And so we wouldn't actually make the change in the Civilian Review Board or the other entity. The other entity is not even an ordinance-based entity, but would give the council the ability when they create these entities to have appointment authority, and they'd make the decision about what the composition would be.
But you could put the Civilian Review Board in as a charter-based board, correct?
You could do several things. You could make it a full-fledged charter commission and debate the language, place the language in the board, like in the charter, as those other 5 are currently in the charter. You could also have a provision in the charter that mandates the creation of that board. And where you do that, you could say that the appointment authority can be allocated between the mayor and the council. Or you could simply have a general, so it would be mandated in the charter, but not placed in the charter. So it would be required for them to do it. And if you want to make it subject to an allocation, it would be, you would put that provision in that general section.
Yeah, a couple of the ways are reasonable. My problem is giving a one person, a mayor, the ability to name 8 of 9 appointments. It seems unfair, potentially problem, and possibly undemocratic. I'd like to see some parity and equality between the council and the mayor, and that's why I suggested 4 for the mayor and 5 for the council.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rubenstein. Steve, do we have before, and I recognize that Commissioner Kennedy has raised his hand, as has Commissioner Galen Clark. Do we have in the other large municipalities in the state, do we have a breakdown of the appointing authority for the civilian police review boards?
You know, I thought I did hand out such a chart. And as I indicated to you once before, I'll take a look at it. I thought we did distribute that chart, that most of them are mayoral appointed. The shared appointment theory is more of a state theory in terms of how state boards, many of the state boards and commissions are appointed. In many of the cases, they're overwhelmingly legislative sourced appointments. But for the most part, municipalities, there is not, with some exceptions, shared appointment authority. I'll go look at my notes and see if I did it on Board of Police Commissioners. If I did, I'll make sure. I can't remember whether I did it for this commission or one of my other commissions, but I think I did it for your commission. I'll take a look.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kennedy.
Good evening again. I think some of this, the Civilian Police Review Board is not the governing body for the police department. It's an important board, yes, while the governing authority is still the mayor, but I thought we had discussions regarding setting up a police commission, fire commission type of potentially changing that going forward in the charter. That's what I was more interested in. Taking, modeling it after New Britain, Bloomfield,
Berlin.
Fine, Berlin, where you've got an elected board that is the governing body of both the police and fire, or maybe together one. I don't know how I think that's kind of a, how do you want to do that? But following a police commissioner type model. And I think where some of this discussion is coming from, because I think people believe that Civilian Police Review Board actually governs to some degree the police department. That's just not the case. They look over complaints that are made against the police department. But they don't actually, and the recommendations, I'm assuming it goes toward good or bad. We had a huge backload when I was on council. But it was not a governing body, so to speak. I was almost left up to the council and the council's public safety committee and the mayor. If we're looking to change that, I'm not sure. And my comments could be off. I apologize if they are. That I'm not sure that the Civilian Police Review Board is where we want to have that discussion. It is important. The appointment should be more balanced than the 8-to-1. And we can often talk to the council about changing that. But I think the bigger question for us in terms of the police is establishing maybe a police commissioner setup. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Attorney Mednick is going
Yeah,
to
just to respond to Commissioner Kennedy.
Hold on one moment. Hold on one moment.
Oh, I'm sorry, apologize.
It's all right. It's all right. Commissioner Rubenstein, you'll be recognized after Commissioner Gallon Clark, and Attorney Mednick is going to speak now. Then we're going to call on Commissioner Gallon Clark.
I'm going to clarify 2 points. One, Mr. Chairman, there is a background document number 11 that I provided you. I could send it out again. It deals with a breakdown of state appointing authorities. And remember, I can't remember, I handed out on January 27th or January 27th meeting. If you want me to resend it, I can. It gives you a breakdown of mayoral appointments, legislative approvals. And as I pointed out then, and this is not an argument against what anybody's trying to do tonight, but what you're trying to do is unique. It is authorized under law, but unique in the state. And you're probably not going to find, as there's no elected treasurer like Hartford has in the rest of the state, there will be no appointing authority as Hartford may go toward in the state. But I do, it's background document number 11, and I'll be happy to share it with you again. The other point I wanted to make to underscore Commissioner Kennedy's point, not as a matter of debate, but as a matter of fact, he is correct. Police commissions are governing entities. Civilian review boards by design are oversight and review entities. One of the problems with the legislation, I think I've pointed this out to you, I know I've pointed it out to almost all of my commissions, is while the legislation is outstanding and it's really great that local governments now have clear express authority to create civilian review boards, the legislature did nothing about the scope of the civilian review board. They gave them subpoena authority, but they gave them the authority to establish scope so that a civilian review board might be able to graft onto the authority of a police commission because the scope is so broad, potentially. But the problem is collective agreements will trump the civilian review board or even the police commission. So even if you were to establish a police commission by charter and you wanted to give the police commission disciplinary authority, you can lay that out as a template and a map for your aspirations and what you want in the community. And then you would want and hope that the mayor would negotiate those provisions into the next collective bargaining agreement. Because unless it's in the bargaining agreement, if the bargaining agreement deals with the issue, you will not have it.
Let me real quick. And I mean, that argument's used a lot on a lot of different things, and I hear you. And the contract does control. I'm not disputing that. But if you don't ever lay down a marker, it never changes.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. And if the mayor doesn't make those changes, then the mayor should be voted out of office if the people in the community say this is what we want.
No,
I mean,
that's
they
why
have to put those into the next. They have to put those into the next contract negotiations. The most stubborn department in the city of Hartford is the police department. I mean, it is a cesspool. They don't want to make any changes. Anything you propose, all they try to do is obstruct. And that was my experience. And maybe that's a real point of where I'm coming from a very biased viewpoint. But you have to bring a way to heal. Al Ilg, when he was city manager and Eddie's appointing authority to deal with police, said he had never seen a department that bad. So, yeah.
All I was making, and I agree with the commissioner completely, was that if you put it in, it doesn't necessarily get you where you want to be, but he's right. It's a marker and it's an aspiration, and you should aspire to make those changes. I want to just make sure one of the concerns I have in this area, I think Commissioner Medina knows the work I've done in other communities in this area, is I don't want to frustrate people by thinking they've got something that they don't yet have. So we need to make it clear, if you put something in this charter, that it's aspirational, and you need to state that the rights that you're trying to establish should be negotiated into a collective bargaining agreement. If you're going to do it, it should be clear that that's what you want to do. I've been recommending that for charters throughout the state, is that you make it very clear so that everybody knows where you're going with this thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Commissioner Gallant-Clark, I believe you had your hand up next, and then Commissioner Medina. Was that the order?
I did. However, if we
No.
are moving toward the police commissioner, I will hold my remarks. If that's the general consensus, that we're going to revisit that and take a serious look at that and put the mark there where Commissioner Kennedy said, I'll hold my remarks regarding the Civilian Review Board.
Okay. And thank you, Commissioner Gallant-Clark. And excuse me, Commissioner Medina, it's Commissioner Rubenstein, and then you, Commissioner Rubenstein.
Thank you. Once again, I am for more parity on a review board, which I know is oversight, to where it would be 4 and 5, 5 for the council and 4 for a mayor. I want to reiterate and mention, with respect to Commissioner Kennedy's remarks, that I stand with him with respect to having a strong police commission. I prefer a elected district approach where real community people and residents of Hartford have a say in how the police department is run, and hopefully ultimately the police people on guarding the residents of Hartford start to look like the face of Hartford rather than what we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubenstein. Commissioner Medina.
One question and then one comment. For Attorney Mendick through the chair, for the police review board or the civilian review board, what we would be saying is, if we wanted to change how appointments are made, we would be drafting language that essentially dictates to the council to make those changes by ordinance. Did I understand that right?
Under the state statute, Commissioner, civilian review boards are created by ordinance. What I've been doing in other communities is we have mandated, as you will see in a couple of weeks, I want to disclose for the record that Commissioner Medina has testified before. As you see, he's been one of the guest stars in one of my panels down in Hampton, and he's coming back in a couple of weeks to take a look at what we've done with the police commission. Ironically, we've done a substantial rewrite of that. But what we're doing in the Hampton Charter is we're mandating the creation of a civilian review board, but it will be created by ordinance. If you want to do that, you have the authority to do that. We probably, because the statute speaks in terms of it being established by ordinance, so that we don't run afoul of anything, some lawyer would make an argument that that charter-based commission is not legal because it's in the charter and not by ordinance. I think you're safe if you mandate it by charter, but that you create it in the code of ordinances. And if you want to have composition mandated, you probably could do that in the charter, that the commission shall be comprised of a number of members where the mayor has a majority of one, or the council has a majority of one, or whatever you want to do. So that you could probably do that.
That's super helpful. And then as a follow-up question, is my recollection correct that the Hartford Civilian Review Board was created out of a consent decree, and is that still active?
That I don't know. What's interesting, does somebody know the answer to that?
It was Cintron versus Vaughn, and the consent decree is still in place. Yes.
So that may impact that may impact whether or not the city council can. So sorry, let me rephrase. If if we would want to change the appointments, the way the appointments are done, it would be charging the council to do that by ordinance. But if the existing civilian review board exists because of a consent decree, is there a conflict there that means that the council actually really can't do that?
Somebody would have to look at how the case was settled.
Okay.
Remember, Hartford did not have authority to create a civilian review board, but for that consent decree.
Okay.
Hartford did it because they were not legally permitted. New Haven created a construction 25 years ago, 30 years ago, when I was on the board of alders, that was very jittery. Hartford at least unfortunately had a consent decree that gave you authority to do it by judicial decree. Somebody would have to look at the actual decree to see if there's any flexibility. I doubt, I would guess that the composition would not be the critical issue. I think that the construction and the role of the commission would probably be what the consent decree focused on. But if we could take a look.
Correct.
That's just for my fellow commissioners, just as we're having this conversation about potential appointment, changing the appointments to the civilian review board, it may just have some complications that we need to work out. Then my comment was, I wanted to associate myself with Commissioner Kennedy's comments. I think that, and I also understand and agree with Attorney Mednick that there are limitations to what we can do with a police commission via ordinance, given the collective bargaining agreement. And so I think there's an important role of dictating what we think that police commission should look like via the charter. And I think that it creates a really good public moment once we know, city residents could be educated about what this police commission potentially could be. And then it's incumbent upon the mayor to ensure that that's negotiated in the contract. And so I just strongly believe it's something that we should include in the charter, even if we're limited by existing contracts, and agree that it's a good step forward. That was all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Medina. Commissioner Kennedy, I saw the raised hand function ping again. Did you re-raise your hand? Okay, I guess not.
I think he just didn't take it down.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rubenstein.
thank you. Back in the Stone Ages, I worked with a gentleman named Nick Carbone with respect to the original consent decree made in federal court. There is no prohibition with respect to the composition argument of the review board. There was language with respect, and Council Mednick is totally correct with respect to structure and other things, but not with respect to composition. So it could change from 8-1 to something much more democratic and equal.
Good, thank you for that comment, Commissioner Rubenstein. Any other thoughts on police issues with regards to the charter? Okay. All right. Thank you all for your thoughts on that issue. Something we'll continue to discuss. And without objection, item number 9 is adjournment. So unless there are any final questions or comments, we will stand adjourned at Commissioner Gallen-Clark.
Yes, as we're looking at hybrid moving toward that direction, I was expressing my concern to some residents about the lack of folks coming on to give public comments. And they suggested that we really consider taking our recommendations and updates to the NRZs, existing NRZs across the city. I know the ones that I attend, they're well attended. So you have residents right there who would be willing and able to give feedback. And there's just, I think, a lack of information out there regarding what this commission is doing and things of that nature, even the social media, taking advantage of that. But I think we really seriously need to look at attending the NRZs. I really do.
I wholeheartedly agree. And if you have a list of NRZs that you'd like, if I can attend, or the vice chair attend, or we can have other commission members discuss the Charter Revision Commission and the process. The one thing we do have to watch out for is a quorum. Steve, but there aren't any other prohibitions on a couple of members going out and talking to an NRC, right?
No, you should not have a quorum.
Right. Okay.
You might break the commission up to get around the town.
Yeah, I'll certainly share that with you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and any other opportunities for public engagement that folks want to propose, feel free to do so. And as commissioners, you all can't speak on behalf of the commission, nor can I, but you are commissioners. So go out in the community and say, hey, I'm a commissioner. I was appointed to this commission that comes around every 10 years, and we're taking a look at the charter. This is really exciting. And this conversation that you and I are having, your ideas can change the constitution, quote unquote, of the city. And people should be excited about that. So, in these last couple of months that we have here, please do, get it out there and let folks know what it is that we're doing. Great. Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, we will stand adjourned at 8:29 p.m. Thank you all.